Some say that playing Mafia is a crime. I say that it's an art form. The best Mafia games are those where the streets themselves whisper tales of intrigue, betrayal, and cold-blooded murder. But which streets are the greatest? You've got your own ideas about which ones deserve to be here. You can share them with us in the comments. Let me know if I missed any obvious ones. And now, let's get into it. I'm not sure whether this counts as the first Mafia game ever, or the first game in the series. But many people consider Mafia to be the first great entry in the series. It was also my first, so I have a soft spot for it. This one follows the story of Tommy Angelo, who after a botched gang hit, finds himself joining the Mafia family that pulled the trigger. After he goes against his former boss, he gets sworn in by Don Salieri. His journey through the ranks sees him take part in daring robberies and assassinations, but he doesn't just pull the trigger. He also has to use his noggin to stay alive. For a game that came out in 2002, the voice acting, storytelling, and character development is superb. But it's the open-ended levels that really make this stand out. Some missions require you to reach a certain point before time runs out. But outside of those, there isn't much stopping you from taking your time and soaking up the atmosphere. In fact, you'd be crazy to rush. There are plenty of side quests to find and complete. And why not take a detour to see what else there is to see when the whole city feels like it's straight out of a gangster movie? If you played this back in the day, then you might agree that the world of this game felt bigger than anything that came before it. But you didn't play it because of the size of the map. You were hooked because of the characters. Even the supporting cast feel real, and you truly get a sense of their relationships with Tommy. And when the plot twists start coming, they'll keep you guessing until the very end. So is it the best game in the series? Some might argue that, but it is certainly the most important. Just Cause 4 takes place in the fictional country of Solis, where you play Rico, a badass mercenary who is brought in to take down the tyrannical General Di Ravello. Of course, being a Just Cause game, you soon realize that you need to cause a lot more justice than you thought, and Rico is more than happy to oblige. Once you start tearing through Solis, you'll find that it's full of secrets, including a number of underground bases that belong to both the military and the criminal underworld. Most of these are optional to take on, but there's no denying that the more you clear out, the better. Since these locations often contain weapons and gear that you'll need for later. What makes Just Cause for such a treat is how Rico can deal with his enemies. There are plenty of ways to get close and personal with his guns blazing, but that doesn't mean that you have to do things the boring way. Do you need to take out a heavily guarded checkpoint? No problem. Do you want to drive a truck into a minefield and blow everything up? By all means, go ahead. Do you want to recruit some locals and send them to their doom with a well-placed rocket launcher? You bet your ass. And these aren't the only ways to approach combat encounters. The game lets you use the environment to your advantage. Do you want to lure enemies out into the open before mowing them down? Sure, why not? Fancy taking them down one by one using a sniper rifle? Go right ahead. Want to lead them into a trap? Sounds good to me. Rico has a few tricks up his sleeve too, including a grappling hook and a wingsuit. The grappling hook is useful for traversing the environment, but it can also be used to distract and take down enemies. Meanwhile, the wingsuit turns Rico into a human missile and allows him to swoop down on unsuspecting enemies and tear them apart. Just Cause 4's Solis may not be as big as Vice City, but it's still pretty huge and has enough secrets to keep you busy for hours on end. Whether you prefer open spaces or something a little more enclosed, there are plenty of ways to approach every situation. And Just Cause 4 rewards your creativity. It doesn't matter how you take down your targets or what you use to do it. As long as you do it in style. Mafia 2, you play as Vito Scaletta. It's an Italian-American who falls in with some very bad people after getting himself into a spot of bother with the law. When he's sent to prison, he meets the mobster Joe Barbaro, who offers him a chance at freedom. All Vito has to do is help Joe take care of a few loose ends. Unfortunately, those loose ends include killing people, which Vito isn't exactly comfortable with. But he's not in a position to argue, especially when it comes to protecting Joe's daughter. Before long, Vito finds himself knee-deep in organized crime, with him and Joe working together to take down rival gangs and climb the ranks of the Mafia, to anyone familiar with the genre. The story will feel familiar, but that doesn't mean it isn't fun. What really steals the show is the setting, the fictional town of Empire Bay. It's based on the city of Boston, and it nails the period setting perfectly. It's filled with nondescript Irish bars, Italian restaurants, and loads of snow. Vito's relationship with Joe is believable, and you get a strong sense of how the Mafia operates. The supporting cast is equally impressive, with each character adding something unique to the mix. But it's how these characters interact with each other that really makes them come to life. The mission structure is similar to its predecessor. While most follow a fairly linear path, there's usually more than one way to reach the objective. However, it's worth remembering that you're not in control of how this game's story unfolds. And sometimes that means having to sit through cutscenes that you can't skip. But that's a small price to pay for such a strong narrative. And Vito and Joe are two characters you won't forget in a hurry. Mafia 3 is set in the fictional city of New Orleans and follows Lincoln Clay, a black Vietnam veteran who was adopted by a local mafia family after being orphaned as a child. When the Italian mob is wiped out by a group of corrupt cops, Lincoln teams up with a motley crew of misfits to take them down. Much like the previous game, the story is what sets it apart from other open-world games. Unlike the previous games, though, you're given the opportunity to choose your allies wisely. That's because the game gives you the option to ally yourself with 3 different criminal organizations: the Vith, Enist crime family, the Chinese triads, or the local black mob. Depending on your choice, the story and gameplay will change. With the Vent-style family, you'll take on more traditional mob hits and work closely with the remaining members of the family. Meanwhile, the black mob storyline focuses more on drug dealing and gang warfare. And the Chinese triad storyline has you trafficking arms and fighting back against the Yakuza. The choice is yours, but keep in mind that it's permanent. The world of Mafia 3 is huge and filled with secrets, from hidden stashes of cash to underground bunkers. There's also plenty to do here, including racing and air combat missions. If you're looking for something a bit more challenging, you can try to take on some of the more heavily guarded locations. And if you're feeling particularly brave, you can attempt to take on the police station. It's fair to say that we've all heard of Grand Theft Auto. The Vice City entry is often cited as being one of the greatest games of all time. And for good reason. Combines the freedom of an open world with some fantastic storytelling and a stellar soundtrack. The story follows Tommy Vercetti, who after being released from prison heads to Vice City to meet with his old boss, Sonny Forelli. When a deal goes wrong and some very important people wind up dead, Tommy finds himself in the crosshairs of both the police and the Russian mafia. Now he'll have to do whatever it takes to survive and make a name for himself in the criminal underworld. One of the best things about Vice City is the setting. It's loosely based on Miami during the 1980s. It does a great job of capturing the neon-lit excess of that era. From the Art Deco buildings to the pastel-hued clothing, everything about Vice City oozes style. Another great thing about Vice City is the soundtrack. It features an eclectic mix of 80s classics that perfectly captures the game's vibe. Whether you're driving around the city or busting into a nightclub, the music will get you in the mood. Characters in Vice City are also top-notch. Tommy is a tough, quick-witted protagonist who you can't help but root for. And the supporting cast of mobsters, cops, and oddballs are equally memorable. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you might even shed a tear or two. Overall, Grand Theft Auto Vice City is a fantastic game that is sure to please fans of the series and newcomers alike. Its combination of open-world gameplay, engaging story, and excellent music makes for a truly unforgettable experience. Which of these games do you think is the best, and why? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked this video, be sure to check out our other videos.